Hey guys and girls, welcome to the Don't Stifle Me podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Stiefel, a singer-songwriter from Fort Payne, Alabama, now living right here in Nashville, Tennessee. This episode is sponsored by Jacob Stifle. That's right, me. I've got 3 CDs available on iTunes and other media outlets, along with merchandise and my own tour dates, all up at jacobstiefel.com. That is JACOBSTIEFEL.com. And at Jacob Stiefel on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat. Now, on with the show. Today's guest is Brian Bandas. Now, some of you might know Brian from the country group that he helped start years ago called Love and Theft. They had some hits both with him and after he moved on. We talked about that some. He also played guitar with me for about 1.5 years, in which we drove all around the country in a van and trailer. He's a great guy, and we had a great talk about life and music and family, things you learn along the way, and maybe a few things that we're still trying to learn along the way. Here it is, my conversation with Brian Bandas. What's up, man?
Nothing. How are you?
Brian Bandas is sitting here at the table, at the desk. I got to figure out a cool thing to call this. I think we'll just call it a desk. How about that?
Yeah, you could come up with something, though.
I got a sleeping bag hanging back there behind you.
Is it like an altar? Is this like the altar?
Does that mean you're bowing down to me? I pulled a David Letterman trick on you, and I've got your chair sitting just a little bit lower than mine.
I see that. You're already taller.
Bear Bryant used to do that in his coach's office. He had a couch that the players would sit on when they came in, and it was like a foot off the ground.
Down.
Yeah, and he would be sitting in this big chair behind the desk. Brian Bandas sitting here with us, real estate extraordinaire, but used to be with the group Love and Theft.
I was.
Trio at that time.
Yep. They were a trio. Some guy quit. Now they're a duo.
Quitters.
I know. It's the kind of people you don't want to spend time with or hear from.
When did you hop on with them, or when were you one of the original guys in there?
I was. They may resent this, but I was the original guy.
Oh,
I was the first official guy.
Was everybody already here, or did y'all start that in Nashville?
Yeah, we started at Nashville. Met through various acquaintances and
yeah. How does something like that work? Like, were you just kind of set up?
Man, I just think it's.
Did you meet them
really
out somewhere and really like them, or
Like I think every story is different. It's always relationship based, and it's going to be, for instance, I started talking to one of our producers about the idea for that type of band, and they liked me as a potential person to do that with. And then we met Steven, and somehow either Steven or one of the producers had met Eric, and it was like, okay, we should talk to this guy Eric too. And he came out and played, and so it's always just sort of relationship based where, man, that's why you hear so many people talk about the hang in Nashville, because there's a lot of good musicians here. I mean, that's like step one. Okay, great, you're a good musician. Congrats. Like, you and 25,000 other people are pretty dang good. So now it's all the other intangibles, I think, and the hang's a huge part of it. I mean, you got a project you're working on, you bring in the people that you want to do projects with.
Yeah, because when you do start something and you go out on the road to play for people, a small percentage of that time is when you're actually on stage playing the music, which is important.
Yep.
But 95% of the rest of that time, you've got to be in the van or in a bus or in a hotel room, or
very close quarters,
right?
Yeah, with people that are not your family, probably closer quarters than you would be even with your family for longer periods of time. And so anyway, I can't even remember how. I didn't know Eric.
How long ago was this?
Or something. I mean, this was Probably coming up on about 10 years. I had been in Nashville for maybe 2 years, 2.5 years. When we very first started talking and writing together, doing all that, it had to be around 10 years ago.
Is that what you came to Nashville for? Like to do a band group thing?
Yeah, although I didn't really come specifically to do country music. In fact, really moved here thinking I wanted to do Christian music or Christian rock or something like that. And I very, very quickly, I actually had a meeting with a Christian A&R person. And it wasn't that it went poorly or something. It forced me to imagine, okay, after I left this meeting, it forced me to sort of imagine, all right, like, let's just pretend that these people called me back and they're like, we're really interested. Let's start talking about working together. And just realizing in that very first meeting that I would not, basically imagining that and realizing, I would say no.
Yeah.
Well, then clearly
not what I want to be
clearly
doing.
That's not what I want to do. I haven't even been offered anything yet, and I'm rejecting imaginary offers. That's probably not.
That's a pretty good sign that you should be looking in other directions.
Yeah. So that happened really quick. I mean, that was the first 6 months of being here, and then I just started working on rock and blues kind of stuff like I always like to do. Yeah. And was putting that out at the time on MySpace.
Oh,
because that was
MySpace. You and Tom?
Tom. We were buddies. He was one of my closest friends.
Was he on the top? What was it? Top 8, top 6, top whatever.
I only had a top 3 because I only had 3 friends. Tom was one of them. The other one was my mom, and the other one was another account that I had made and friended myself. So, I was putting that music out on MySpace, and these producers that ultimately ended up working with Love and Theft and helping us build that up. Found it and really liked what I was doing, and I was just kind of, touring around, touring being a generous description of me, playing a small number of shows out here and there, and just putting out demos. Of course you grow, and I listen back, and just really bad demos of.
Got to start somewhere.
Some rough songs, just everything about it. I'm like, oh my gosh, who thought that I was good, including myself? What was happening? But hey, I guess that's part of the growth process.
For sure. So where are you from?
Austin, Texas.
Austin, Texas. Mm-hmm. Born and raised there?
Born and raised. Well, sort of. Born about an hour north of Austin.
Did you start playing music around Austin before you moved over here?
Yes. Grew up, I grew up in the Partridge Family.
Oh, yeah?
From my grandparents on down, I've got professional jazz musicians and
that's cool.
Just a large number of professional musicians throughout several arms of the family, just grew up. Shoot, I think one of my earliest memories is my grandmother teaching me, what was it, "You Are My Sunshine" or something on the piano. Is when I was probably 4, and so just grew up doing that all the time. And then sometime around 7th grade, my buddy Wes comes over. He starts playing some music on the piano for me. And it was just like the light bulb went off. There were really a couple light bulbs going off. That was the first one. The second one was later in probably around freshman year of high school, when I started realizing that not only could I play music, but it dawned on me that I could start writing it. I was really moved by some Goo Goo Dolls music, their songwriting, these melodies, these soaring melodies. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I could... it just sort of clicked. I thought, they just choose a chord progression, they sing over it. Okay,
I can do that.
I can do that.
Yeah.
And thankfully I got lucky with one song. Like one of the first ones I wrote was like pretty catchy.
Yeah.
Pretty catchy. Like friends in my school would ask me to play it and stuff. So I had this like
first one I wrote was
miniature.
Not.
Yeah, I don't know. This may not have been the very first one, but I ended up sort of like dumb lucking into like what I would call like my first single among my friends. Like everybody always asked me to play this one.
This is my breakout new single.
That's right. And so I played it at a talent show and got like a huge reception. And I think basically, whether healthy or unhealthy, I don't even really mean this jokingly. Like I think I got a taste of that type of feedback, which us artists really like.
Right.
The "Oh, you're so great" kind of feedback, and just it was almost like a drug, It's just, okay, yeah, I definitely want to experience this from the vantage point of a stage as frequently as possible. More and more people, the better, please.
Yeah.
And there you go.
It's so crazy. It is like a drug. It's like, and it's not, to me, it's not necessarily I'm up in front of people, they're looking at me, but it's like the connection that happens when they're really digging what you're doing and you're feeling it. And it's just, there's a connection between them and you that almost can't be put into words.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that to me that's the drug to me.
Oh man, it is totally a high.
Because you can be in front of a bunch of people and that not be there.
Yeah, that's true.
Like if you're performing for people that aren't, maybe they're there to see somebody else or something.
Oh, it's definitely when there is appreciation.
Yeah,
for sure. And so some of these first experiences I had, there was plenty of it, and I'm just like, okay, if this is what I have to do to feel this wonderful, yeah, I'll keep doing this. I'm sure chemically there's got to be like I'm sure dopamine's just firing off like nuts.
Got to be, yeah.
So that was sometime around middle school or early high school. I started just realizing like I couldn't get enough of that, and played around Austin a little bit. At that point, mostly acoustic stuff, and then ended up having like a Christian rock band for a while and we started off really bad, and then we did start to like around my senior year or freshman year of college. I feel like we got pretty decent. Sometime around college, we started getting better. I know, looking back now, having spent time in the industry professionally, we basically did every single possible thing wrong. So I kind of look back and I think, golly, like I could whip that band into a completely otherworldly shape. It's true about
so many parts of life and aspects of life. It's like thinking about when I think back to football, being on the football team, working out, you just go into the weight room and you're just working out because you got to be there and you got to do it. And you look and see if the coach is watching.
Right.
And you're like, oh, he's not watching. I'll skip a few reps or whatever.
Right.
But like now you think back and man, if I would have, known then what I know now about applying myself.
If I had like the perspective now.
Right.
That I did
and
then.
Just tried a little bit harder and focused on things.
Completely.
But, as the Jacob Stiefel song says, if I hadn't been there, I wouldn't be here.
Who's that?
What? Who? Jacob
Stiefel.
Stiefel is a really, really good looking guy. You should really check him out.
He sounds handsome.
He's got great hair. His pants are too tight sometimes.
No, not possible.
It's the chips and salsa's fault. So, fast forward to Nashville, Tennessee. You would start Love and Theft because one of the most interesting things to me about the music business is how there is no answer to how should I do this. Like
nope.
There's no roadmap. There's all kinds of books that people write, but they're not any good.
I would say that there are principles that will always apply.
Right.
But those principles are not like people want the answer to be go meet this person at this office. Mm-hmm. They will introduce you to person B, and then write this many singles, and then you get a deal. Done.
Yeah, they want it to be like to become a lawyer or to become a dentist or to become, you do to those things.
Yeah.
You go to school, you take these classes and these classes, you pass this, you do this research, and then and then you get your degree.
Here's your degree path right here, and you just check each of these boxes. You're good. Yeah,
but that does not exist in the entertainment world because there are literally limitless amounts of paths that you can take. So
there are. For
the Love and Theft, once y'all got together and you made the deal, like how did you just go from that straight to, hey, we're in a tour bus?
Yeah. Yeah. It was crazy. It took like 3 days. No, quite the opposite. And that's what's so funny. And it has changed my perspective on, mainstream acts when I hear new mainstream acts. And I just know that their sudden jump into the spotlight was not sudden.
Right.
Just my perception of it might be sudden, but I just know that, and honestly, ours might have been quicker than some, but I would look at my own individual path and say like, that wasn't quick. I worked really hard on this from the, age 14 or something.
Yeah.
But even as a band, man, like I've rarely in my life worked that hard on anything. I mean, we were eating it, sleeping it, breathing it, day in and day out.
Did y'all like live together or just get together and rehearse a lot?
We did live together. Let's see. I don't think all three of us were ever in the same house at once, but like Steven and I lived in a house 2-3 doors down from Eric and his cousin.
But constantly getting together
But
and
yes,
rehearsing and working
constantly,
on things. And,
like 5-6 days a week, writing, rehearsing. We were working with these producers who, man, not in a bad way. I mean, they were taskmasters. I mean, they were absolutely... I remember us playing an open night, and one of them just probably somewhat justly, although maybe delivery wasn't great, just ripping us to shreds. Like we got a bunch of great feedback, everybody's clapping and we're like, that was pretty good, and just torched us on just how horrible it was. And basically like, man, I'm supposed to take you, I'm supposed to be working on trying to help you guys get in the doors at labels. I don't want to show you to labels because this is, this is awful. Basically,
the nightmare review.
Oh my gosh, it was brutal. It was. I think there were many tears, many fights. Definitely some blood here and there. Just such intense hard work, and I think that's one of the principles that people skip. That's where they want the career path sort of checklist thing, right? So they don't have to work that hard. They can just do these magic things, and remove all uncertainty. And that's just not in the cards. That's just not the deal. I mean, now I know that we ended up getting a record deal, but I didn't for several years before that.
So you just formed the thing and then started playing and rehearsing and writing and seeking out the record deal.
Yeah, and we were very patient and methodical about that in terms of, through the relationships. Again, I mean, that's just going to be a theme, that it's relationship based. Through the relationships we had, we knew we could get indoors, and we still waited and waited and waited. We even did some mock label showcases with safe people who were in similar roles
to test it and see.
But testing it out and to get our nerves under control. We went into some offices for some folks who we weren't actually auditioning for, who were friends of our producers, and
that's cool. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Fake, very, very purposeful and professional about our approach to that.
Yeah.
So that by the time we finally took that plunge, called in some favors, we got into some meetings and stuff. It was like, I want to say we had probably 8 label meetings and 4 or 5 offers, but it was not by luck.
Yeah, it wasn't by
happenstance. When it was like so dialed in, and we had a lot of this was done with the help of these producers who were familiar with the industry and had been in the industry a long time, and they're sort of guiding our steps and critiquing our songwriting and all that. And they're the ones who, I probably a year or 2 before that would have eagerly walked into offices, made a weak first impression, and killed it.
Yeah,
I thought they kind of
coached you along the way.
You're not even close to ready. So by the time we're going in, we were so dialed in that we just didn't even really wonder whether or not we'd get a deal. It's kind of cocky, but
so you got all those offers, and then you got to pick the one, like the best or the one you wanted.
Pretty much. I don't know if we chose wisely or not. I loved the people at our label.
When did the first
2 years later?
When did the first CD come out?
Man,
because I think I was probably in college.
Goodness. So
if you got together in like 06, 07, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I want to say
it had to have been like 08 or 09.
It was 08 or 09. So we had this little live album come out because we had a video that CMT was playing a bunch, and we had no music out anywhere. So we put out this. We were touring at the time with Taylor Swift.
Really?
People may have heard of her. This was early on, man. Like, first shows we played with her, like college, like half empty college theaters.
Really?
We probably played to 1,500, 2,000 people with her. By the end of that same year, we're playing to her first arena shows.
Wow.
Yeah, I guess arenas, not like amphitheaters. But
did you get to
8,000 people?
Meet her, know her, like be around her or anything? Because that was before.
We did.
super took off. That's cool.
Yeah,
because Chance, my cousin and roommate, worked with her for 2015, I think, for the
she was way bigger
tour.
than,
Yeah, right. Yeah, but he only got to meet her like a couple of times or something, or be around her a couple of times.
Yeah.
So you got to spend like time around her.
Yeah, I mean, she was growing pretty fast, but definitely not inaccessible at that point. I mean, we would eat, meals at catering and with her and just, that kind of thing. But, so we were touring with Taylor and starting to get some traction and some buzz. CMT's playing this video and stuff, and we have nothing. So we recorded, and it was just the three of us, no band at this point. We're opening an acoustic set for her, like 6 songs, 5 or 6 songs. So we released that, like scrambled.
Well, like 2 acoustics and something.
3 acoustics, 3 acoustics, cool. 3 vocals. So or every once in a while I jumped on piano, a couple songs. And so we scrambled to put out this live album. And then, so I'm guessing that was 2008, and then maybe our actual debut album was 2009. Cool. You're asking me hard questions.
Oh, yeah. Well,
might have been 2010 when that debut album finally came out. There's always so for a new artist, and gosh, just every single experience is different. But for us, they're testing the waters, so they put the single out, and they wait to see a certain amount of traction before they even fund the rest of the whole album.
Yeah,
like they'll fund like 5 songs.
They want proof. We want proof that you're going to make us money.
Yeah, pretty much. Before they, so finally we start to see some traction on Runaway.
Yeah,
the first single, and so then we go in and record the rest.
When did you go from that to starting to think, hey, maybe this is not for me, because you put all this work into it? And
that's a good question. I have no idea the time or the year, but I can describe that. What I experienced was that slowly I was growing as an artist, and certainly not growing in a direction that was parallel to or intersecting with a career in country music, So as an individual, my tastes were growing sort of slowly away from that. And I think that I was looking around. I really don't want to dog on specific artists. I was just looking around at some of the music that was coming out. So here I am, like, I'm listening to, I'm taking in the Stones and Jeff Beck and Zeppelin and gosh, I don't know, just so many, who knows, all kinds of this era of music and musicians that were just so, in my mind, so exceptional, so artistic, so unique, really had like such a voice. And it's all sort of lumped in as this era of like, man, what would it be like to be a part of that? And then I looked around at basically sort of pop country that was going on around me. Lots of artists like pretty similar to us, and some of them really thinking, I think that's awful.
Yeah.
And just thinking, okay.
You can say whatever you want to here. This is a judgment-free zone.
Yeah, shoot, man. I know. It's but, I'm not worried about... I don't feel the need to disparage people who are still having careers.
Well, that's nice of you. Brian Bandas is a nice guy. People.
I'm a nice guy. I mean, I guess the truth is, I sort of felt that way too. Okay, it's fine if they like this and want to be a part of this. Yeah. I don't want to be a part of this. And that, I was looking at eras of music and then looking at basically a group of artists that I was a part of and saying, this is another sort of era, this is another cluster, and they're going to go, okay, that period of time is when that happened.
Yeah.
Do I want to be known for that and be a part of that movement? And the answer was no.
Yeah.
So the transition probably happened quicker, though, because our label shut down, Lyric Street Records, which is why I jokingly say we had the pick of multiple labels, and we picked the one that shut down 2-3 years later. But so the label shuts down, and then we finally, through some challenging times, end up with a new deal with Sony.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I would have left the band quite as quickly as I did, but this transition happened, and it was sort of a natural time for that change to take place, because I finally, the funny thing is I was trying to, I don't know if I was trying to work up the nerve or just waiting for the right time to meet with Steven and Eric and tell them this. Well, before I scheduled something with Eric, our attorney calls and she's like, cool, your deal's here from Sony. It's ready to go. Like, come on over and sign it. And I'm like, crap. Before I do that,
we should talk.
Yeah. So it was basically just this feeling of like, man, even if I go sign this, I'm not going to last more than a year.
I remember the first time you told me kind of a lighter version of this story. Because for you folks out there, Brian also, after this, we'll get to this, but Brian played guitar with me in my band for a year and a half, something like
it was a little over a year.
Year and a half, something like that. And I remember one day we were driving down the road in the van and talking about life and this and that, and it came up. We were talking about love and theft, and I remember you telling me this story about you had the record deal and about to sign the new deal, and you were going to get the like bonus money or signing money or whatever.
I have no idea even what it was. It probably wasn't anything crazy, but it was
but it's something
more than zero.
And I remember I gained so much respect for you in just those few minutes of you telling me that story, because you could have easily done that and then 6 months down the line known that you were going to quit.
Sure.
You know? But you didn't. So continue.
Oh yeah. Thanks, man. Yeah. So that was the feeling. I mean, it just, why am I going to go sign that? I know that I'm not going to fulfill this contract. I'm so feeling more and more out of place every day. There were a lot of elements to it. I mean, there was on occasion, those guys are really close friends of mine. So there's really no bad blood of any kind there. There was certainly disappointment on their part at the time. In fact, we're going to Eric's kid's birthday party in a couple days.
Cool.
So there was, but you know, there were things in there, just like any relationship. I mean, were not perfect relationships, and probably made worse by the fact that I felt like I had this dark secret of like every day I'm starting to hate what we're doing, and you guys are going to freaking hate me when I leave. And then so just the idea that I would then go and sign what I think was probably a 5 or a 6 album deal, which really means nothing since they can just shut you down on a whim
whenever they want.
But if they don't choose to shut you down, then they, of course, own you. So I just felt like, why am I going to sign this? Like, I know that I'm going to quit. I know I'm going to quit.
Have you seen
if it's 6 months, a year and a half at the most, I know I'm going to be gone.
Have you seen that Eagles documentary that was on HBO or Showtime or whatever it was?
I have not, although I've heard that it's amazing.
It's so good. But in that, either Glenn Fry or Don Henley, one of them were saying that a band is basically like being married to 3, 4, 5, 6 people, however many people are in the band. You're married to them because you spend more time with them than anyone.
So just like a marriage, there's dysfunction, there's fights on the bus, there's disagreements about how to handle the business, there's disagreements about what songs should be our single. You bring a song that you think is the best thing you've ever written, the other two guys think it's garbage, and you thought it was going to be the next single. I mean, that's all pretty natural to a band, but that doesn't mean that it's not challenging.
Right.
Okay, this happens to every band, and it's hard on every band.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, so I get a call, and I'm there. She's like, "Hey, come on down and sign this thing." So instead, I called Eric. We went over to Losers on Division Street.
Yeah,
and I let him know I was gonna probably not sign that deal and have to take my leave. And he handled it really well, to his credit, and Steven's too. They weren't thrilled. Understandably so.
Yeah.
And but I didn't get cussed out or punched or they were disappointed, and thankfully they still signed with Sony, and their next song was a #1. So things could have gone a lot worse.
So you tell them that. Did you know what you were going to do next, or did you have like that moment of like,
sure,
shit,
I thought
what now?
No, I had a great plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
How'd that work out?
0%.
Yeah.
It was just like went into a really challenging period of life, just like any good journey. I thought that I could parlay some of the relationships I had maybe into just being a writer. So I thought, hey, the first thing I'll do is I will talk to some of these folks and maybe do like a pub deal.
Yeah.
And I'll write. And then while I'm doing that, I will work on either a new band or a solo project that is artistically more in line with what I'm doing. And I was okay with being less mainstream.
Yeah.
And doing it more independently. but really having a lot more creative control and just sort of building something from the ground up on my terms. So I did not get a pub deal.
Well,
And I had bought a house not that long before that, and I had a new baby and a new wife, and it was a friggin' disaster.
were you like freaking out in your head?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah, I would think so.
Oh my gosh, completely. I was terrified.
I'm
and
not married with no kids,
confused.
and I would be freaking out at that point.
Yeah, I was totally lost and wrote some good material during
Yeah.
that time because it was legitimately dark. Like I was so
Well, it had to
discouraged.
also be in the back of your mind, like, okay, I just quit this for good reasons, but now they're super successful and #1 song. Did you ever have any regrets of leaving? Or did you know that
so
was the
no
right-
that's the only like saving grace was that I never once, and I can honestly say to this day, have never once thought, oh crap, why did I do that?
Well,
I really didn't. Now what was really hard was that none of my plans came to pass, and
yeah.
I couldn't, like, I took an immediate and dramatic income hit. Couldn't afford the house that I had just bought. Couldn't make the mortgage, and had a new baby, and so I actually did not ever. I was never bothered by their success at all. I really genuinely wanted them. Maybe
That's
even
cool.
selfishly, maybe for my own conscience, I did not. I wanted them to go on and succeed to whatever degree.
Yeah.
Maybe just so I'd feel like less of an asshole. But so no, I was never bothered by that, thankfully. But my plans did not come to pass at all. And so then I was just very much left.
But even
with, like,
better, you got to play guitar with me.
worked out perfectly. It was amazing. I actually really enjoyed that. One thing I really enjoyed about that was not being the artist.
Yeah.
Just plugging in my guitar. Frankly, I would have been fine if I never even sang lead on a couple, which I enjoyed doing that, but I would have been fine without it. Just chilling over there playing to good music. That was really fun.
So while you were playing guitar with me, you also had a couple of different projects that you did. Mm-hmm. Still, I guess you're still trying to like find your avenue. I think it's
So I had
so
probably-
important that it's such a battle trying to find your path in your.
So definitely a theme in my life is like exploration.
Yeah.
And my wife is a really good sport because I still do it. I do it with business stuff. Maybe I'll start a company that looks like this. Maybe I'll buy this type of property and try this, try that. So
From what I've heard, the most successful people do that.
I think I've read some good things that made me feel
Yeah.
better about that because I don't look at, like, I've definitely tried some things that didn't work, and I just don't really feel like they were failures. I learned a lot from them, and I'm a better musician, a better businessman, whatever, from doing that. But at the time, so I did have what I think was a pretty good rock band called The Lowdown.
Yeah.
And then I also did like a sort of Bob Dylan-y, just acoustic, folky side project thing. That was never, I don't know that I ever thought that was going to become some big career or anything, but the rock band, I did try that. And so we were pretty good, but we were figuring things out slowly, and I just all of a sudden turned this corner where the end prize, which to a degree I had already once with Love and Theft,
Yeah.
I sort of started to envision, okay, if I want that prize, here's what it's probably going to take, like doing anything for several years and being out in a van. And
Yeah.
sometime around then, I probably gave birth to my wife gave birth to my second son. I was there for
That was
it.
going to be an interesting story.
Yeah, wow, medical marvel. And just all of a sudden, I was like, that's not worth it to me anymore. Like the
It was
end
towards the
prizes-
end of you playing with me because I remember you started to get like real estate books, and the whole time we were gone, you were like listening to stuff,
Probably
and
listening to
reading,
podcasts and-
reading about real estate, and I remember
I
noticing
liked
like
the.
you where your mind was. And it's not a bad thing, but you.
No, I remember when you took me to Chewy's to fire me, and I said,
I don't like using the word fire.
"That's exactly what you said." We sat down, and you said, "So," or something like.
No, I remember we sat down in the booth, and
I just,
before we said anything, you were just like,
I just said,
"So, are you going to fire me?"
Are you firing me? And your response was, "I don't like to use the word fire."
Yeah.
I'm like, fine, you can call it whatever you want.
I don't like to use the word fire, but I'm no longer going to be paying you to play guitar with me.
And don't come out with us anymore. Well, but you were right. I think the conversation basically went, yeah, you should be firing me. I'm not in that anymore. And you can tell.
As a friend, I could tell that your heart was elsewhere.
It's funny how that changes though. And I just suddenly you put up with so much because you're pushing for this thing.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, if the thing isn't good enough, you're like, why am I doing this? And that was all that happened for me, is that the scales tipped to where what it would take to get the prize became far heavier than like the weight of the glory of the prize, to where it was just, man, okay, I put up with all this and then I get this end prize and I just don't even want it that bad anymore.
I think that's part of life.
Yeah.
If you look at your goals like they're a mountain that you're walking toward and starting to climb up, sometimes you get closer to it and you think, I like that mountain over there a lot better.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to go climb that one instead.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much what happened. So, but thankfully, it's a blessing that I got to do the stuff with Love and Theft, because I didn't feel this like angst of unfulfilled dreams. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You got to see.
It was like, man, that was really cool. I had a good run. I came out to Nashville. I made my living doing this. Like to at least to some degree, conquered this goal.
You got further than a lot of people do.
And then
you're on a bus and.
That's right, man. I remember laying in my bus thinking, I'm on a bus, right? Like I am on my tour bus right now.
Yeah.
And having that like realization and feeling that victory, which is pretty cool.
So when you stopped playing, I'm not going to use the word fired. When you were no longer playing,
when you
guitar
fired
for me. What did you move? Did you go straight to real estate after that? Is that when you jumped into that?
I did, man. Right around the port. I feel so bad for the guys in the lowdown, because they, we all hitched our wagons to each other, I guess, so to speak. And I, unlike Love and Theft, we never got there. And unlike Love and Theft, I mean, I was the lead singer, and not that they couldn't all go on to have careers, but the lowdown was definitely over.
Right.
And so that I felt actually almost worse about. But shortly after we stopped playing together, I stopped playing with them as well. And went and
you had 2 kids at this point.
Had 2 kids. Had started kind of getting into like rental properties, trying to get rental properties, and just was enjoying. I've always kind of liked business. Like long before that, I tried other things like a t-shirt company and an eBay company, and so that a interest in business was not new. And finally I was starting to give in to the fact that I was really, really getting interested in it. So,
yeah. And it's not so much, I want to make sure and point out that it's not so much that you failed and gave up on something.
No,
as you grow, some people, their aspirations and dreams change, and it's important to follow that and not be so hell-bent on, I said I was going to do this 10 years ago, this is all I'm going to do forever.
I think that's a case of mistaken identity, where you think that your identity is in your career, I guess, which was absolutely true for me for a long time. And that's really what changed, is I started feeling like, man, if I'm not a professional musician, like I think being a father was certainly probably the most significant catalyst. But my identity shifted, and I stopped feeling like, if I'm not a musician by trade, like I still feel pretty good about myself now. And there was a long time where not that I would have felt bad about myself, I guess, but that was it. That was me as a successful person. And if I didn't do that, I therefore was not successful, period. And I just stopped feeling that way. I started feeling like, man, like the unconditional love of my son just trumps all of the accolades from fans or anybody. I mean, it was just like, all of a sudden you get this child and my wife who basically just totally love me and support me and admire me regardless of that stuff. And it just sort of helped me free myself from that identity, and needing musician to be my identity. And so that definitely helped. I don't know if you know this, but the guy that I work with now, I ran into him at the gym the next morning after you fired me.
Really?
You remember firing me?
I did not know that.
I know you don't like to use the word fire, but and I had already told him once or twice, I don't think I'm interested in being in real estate. And he asked me again and basically was like,
actually,
I know you're not. Yeah. And I was like, well, I don't have a job as of about 12 hours ago. So maybe we should talk a little more in detail about this. So there was just, there's so many things that just, I don't know, they sort of coincided that made it make sense and also just helped me feel, I felt very peaceful about it. I felt like, that was a great era of my life. And not only did it not feel like a failure, but I wanted it to be done. I wanted to move on to the next thing. And again, that comes back to the exploration, like, I'm going to try this out. And if I never do anything else with it ever again, like that, it's just okay. That's fine. The things that I've done exploration and certain things have stuck and become very significant and other things have not. And that I just feel fine with that.
Yeah,
I brewed homemade, I homebrewed beer for a while. It was cool. And I liked it, but didn't love it. And I stopped doing it.
Well, it's like this podcast. I don't want to ever, when I finally decided to do it, I knew that I didn't ever want to look back 5 years from now and think, man, I always talked about maybe doing a podcast. What if I,
yeah.
And so it was the same thing when I moved to Nashville. I graduated from college in 2009 and thought, well, I could go back home to Fort Payne and, get an engineering job with, civil engineering job with my degree. Yeah. But I really want to play music. And I didn't ever want to look back and think, what if I had moved to Nashville and tried it? And so 8 years later, I'm here, still working on finding my exact path, but that's part of life. I believe you should embrace the journey.
Yeah. Yeah. I think maybe that's something that has changed for me is viewing that path. Gosh, some of this is so cliche, but just, it used to be for me like, hey, the path is something that is in the way of me getting to the destination,
right?
Which is record deal or whatever, whatever it might be. And I still do that. It's still, even with business, okay, the path is in the way of me hitting this, growing my business to this level or something like that.
Yeah. I was listening to an Alan Watts podcast. You ever listen to him? He's an old philosopher guy. It's he's dead now, but it's a bunch of speeches of his lectures of his from the 60s.
Yeah.
And they've got them all separated into things. I was listening to one the other day and he was, and once again, it's incredibly cliche, but he was talking about life being thought of as a dance, if I'm not going to quote a Garth Brooks song here, but it's about, when you're dancing, he was saying, when you're dancing, you're not thinking about where you're going to end up. You're not thinking about the end of the song. Okay, I'm going to be standing there at the end of the song. You're thinking about this step leads to this step, and then I'm going to spin here. And it's about that process. It's not about where you end up. And
so I think for me, I've finally been through a couple eras, and I've started to recognize that pattern of eras. Whether it was college and then the period of time when I was first here in town, then Love and Theft was an era, then the beginning of my marriage and leaving Love and Theft, and now the business stuff that I'm doing. Yeah. They're all these different eras that all hold value. They're not, they're not a good era or a bad era. They're all sort of valuable. And I've really become a little bit better about enjoying the era that I'm in. And it also makes me feel more peaceful about, there are going to be future eras. Like I don't have to fit everything in right now. I can just let things unfold. But man, shoot, how do you explain that to a 19-year-old?
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's not going to happen. They just have to experience it. And I'm sure that I'll have even more insight on that, 10 years from now than I do now.
Absolutely. Tell me about your wife's blog, the Oh Bother thing.
Oh, she's awesome.
I really like that.
Can we just talk about how awesome my wife is?
I'll listen.
She's beautiful.
I don't want to say bad things about her.
Beautiful. What would you say?
I don't know anything bad about her.
Yeah,
so
right.
It's all good things. She's a glorious person.
She is. She's awesome.
She puts up with you,
dude. Right? Seriously, she's
She does crack me up though. I watch. So what is it? Oh Bother.
She's a really good writer. Yeah. OOH.
Bother.
Oh
Yeah.
Bother with 2 O's.
On Instagram and everything. I put that in the show notes on the website.
Yeah, thanks for doing that. She is working really hard on that right now. Like really hard. Every morning.
I sent one to my sister, a video clip that she put up the other day, and it reminded me of my sister. My sister has 2 kids that are roughly the same age as yours, and we joke about her not ever thinking of, like her, some people dream of, whatever, leaving their spouse or something like that. But the only thing she like ever fantasizes about is going and sitting like in a quiet room.
Oh yeah.
By herself with no children. Like she loves her kids, loves her husband, but like that's her fantasy, is just being able to go sit in a hotel room by herself in the quiet.
Oh yeah.
And so your wife had a clip the other day of, she went to the grocery store or something, and she said she was sitting out in the car. She just ran there to get something real quick and then go back home because y'all were cooking or something. And she was sitting in the car, and she said she just sat there for like 20 minutes because it was quiet in the car.
I knew she was gone. I'm going to talk to her when I get out of here.
Sorry,
that doesn't surprise me at all. We've got 2 boys, and they are awesome, and their energy levels are like basically unfathomable.
Yeah.
And they're just relentless, and she gets the brunt of it. If she and I are standing there together,
right?
Mom, mom.
Oh yeah,
mom. Like I don't even exist. I'm fine. I don't know if there's a force field around me or what.
Are you the disciplinary one?
Oh, probably more so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it doesn't even matter. She's the mom, and
right?
So
oh yeah.
Her constantly, she's having to say, your dad is, they'll yell from the room that I'm in with them to mom.
And she's
in the other room. And she'll say, your dad is right there next to you. Ask him. And so sometimes if I really want to piss her off, they will ask me, and I'll say, I don't know, go ask your mom.
So what's the blog? Explain the blog to the folks.
So we actually started that together, and it was sort of a his and hers. Like we were both just sort of commenting on parenting, and But it has totally become her baby, and she works her butt off on it. And it's there's a couple themes. Certainly, parenting is the main one. She's a vegetarian, so she'll do.
I didn't know that.
She enjoys cooking. I know.
Poor thing.
She enjoys cooking, and she will do posts on there about different recipes and stuff like that. But it's really just sort of I don't know, man. She's real snarky, so it's really funny. It's sort of a.
It is very humorous.
It's sort of a sarcastic, like irreverent look at parenting and being a mother.
Yeah,
like just the right amount of sacrilege, towards her kids, and she's just a great writer, and she's funny, she's really clever. So she's been working very, very hard on that recently. Like she's up every morning. We get up pretty early to get some time to ourselves before the kids wake up. So she'll get up at 5 and work on that for an hour.
That's another thing I respect, I've noticed about you, is that you're very purposeful on making time for your family and your wife, because you're business oriented and you have goals and stuff that you're working for. But don't you like take a whole day a week or something? I know at one point you had Tuesday was family day or something like that.
Yeah.
And you just didn't work.
So now it's Sunday.
Okay.
And it's very, very, I work for myself.
Yeah.
So there's no 9 to 5. So that's really beneficial during the week, but it also means that like everybody just thinks that like you're available all the time.
Yeah.
So now it's Sundays, and I have to be really purposeful about, and it's actually hard because I'm a motivated guy.
Yeah.
And today's a Monday. So yesterday was a Sunday, and I'm trying to take the day off, and somebody asked if I wanted to take a potential client.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, why? I shouldn't say no to that. Like that's, and I did.
Yeah.
I said, sorry, not today. You can take them or I'll talk to them tomorrow. And I think they probably took them, but that's when it's hard, is like you are self-employed. And so you sort of think like, I have no excuse for not.
Like, yeah. I can't imagine.
It feels like a cop out
too. I can't imagine having a wife and 2 kids and needing to do that.
I mean, you'll probably never have a wife, right?
Who knows? Don't say that to mom. She worries.
No, you're a stud. You'll be all right. It's about, I mean, we could go so deep on this. It's something that I try and talk to my team members about too. It's just, you have to, nobody else is going to guard your time. Nobody cares about your time as much as you do. Nobody cares about you being with your family. Like, they'll say they do. They would never say, hey, I don't care about your family, but their actions will say that. Oh, you know, I get lots of,
it's not that they don't care. They don't care as much as they do about
what they want.
Right.
And it's fine. I don't even mind it. That's why I just say, hey, sure, I'll take care of that tomorrow for you.
Yeah. Speaking of family, adoption, are y'all still doing the adopting thing?
We are. Yeah. Man, we got a lot of, you're really up on things.
I try to stay on top of everything.
I forgot that we were adopting a kid till you said it.
I don't believe that.
No, we actually were just getting stuff notarized this morning.
Yeah, I want to hear all about that. I haven't really talked to you that much about it. That's awesome.
Man, okay, so let me try and give you the highlights. So first of all, the spirit behind the adoption, or basically where it came from, was just, man, to circle back to this sort of chronological story, things were really dark.
Yeah.
Really, really living, like, scraping by. And then finally joined forces with Alex, my buddy who owns the real estate team I'm on.
Yeah.
And just in the last, 3.5 years have just really flourished and financially for sure. I mean, just seeing some growth and dug ourselves out of that hole. And,
yeah.
But really more than that, just in every way, like, our marriage is great and our kids are so sweet and crazy. And, we love the house we're in. We love the city we live in. We just basically sort of taking stock of our life and going, holy crap, like, why do we have so much?
Yeah.
And we were sitting at Jonathan's having dinner one evening, and I'm drinking a beer, and wouldn't you know it, over a beer is typically when, the Holy Spirit moves. So, so I'm sitting there and we're just basically talking about, this sounds ridiculous, but just cataloging, like, man, like, our life is just so good and we are so, so fortunate. Really feeling very, very grateful, not feeling arrogant, just thinking, man, what have we done to deserve this?
Led to think about sharing that with, bringing somebody else in to that.
Yeah. It was just, basically the question was, like, why do you think we have all this? Is it just so we can just, like, stockpile stuff and pat ourselves on the back and feel great about ourselves, or is it to somehow share it? And I had recently heard a guy talk about you are given things and entrusted with things for the good of the world that you live in. Like, you are given abundance of any kind for the good of those around you, whether it's your family or your city or the world, whatever. And so that was the question. Okay, why have we been given what we've been given? And so pretty much immediately we discovered that we were adopting a kid. It was kind of one of those conversations where about 30 seconds later it was like, so we're adopting? Yeah. Okay, cool. So that was the beginning.
How do you go about picking, like, where you want one? Sounds weird to say that. Where do you want to get one from?
Yeah. That's
what kind are you going to get?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
You can do domestic in the U.S. You can do international. So there were several things that we both sort of felt like we wanted to do without even talking about it. So that we pretty much just rode that. We said, all right, if we haven't even talked about it and we both think we want to, adopt internationally, then
I guess that's what we're going to do.
I guess we're just adopting internationally. Yeah. So there were a few things like that. So then what you'll discover is that only certain countries, can work with the U.S. Because you have to comply with what's called the Hague Convention, which is how they prevent human trafficking through adoption. There's all kinds of stuff. So then you discover that only certain countries among those will work with Tennessee. And then you discover that only certain adoption agencies will work with certain countries, et cetera. By the time we had it narrowed down, there were only 2 countries that would allow us to adopt a child that was in the age range that we needed, because we needed a pretty young kid, because our youngest is 3.
Yeah.
And so we want to keep birth order. And the other issue is that a lot of these places, you got to travel to that country for extended periods of time. And we couldn't do anything that long. We got 2 kids here, and we're going to have to leave them with grandparents because we're going to, so really there were only two that fit that bill. The rest of them we would have had to leave for 2 months, leave our kids here for like 2 months.
What'd you pick?
So we will be adopting from Burundi. It's a country, very small country in Central Africa.
Huh.
Really, 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 man, they've been through it. There's been genocide. There's been all kinds of turmoil, and they're very, very poor. And really it just came down to, we could either adopt from Africa or we could adopt from Asia. And we both, again, just sort of without talking about it, we sort of went, I think Africa. I do too. All right, well then I guess
that's it. Yeah.
You got at some point you got to just choose one. So we said, all right, let's just go for it. So that's what we're doing, and it is a long and expensive process.
Oh man, that's awesome. I can't say enough for that. Because most people might be like, all right, we finally got success. We finally got all these things. Let's buy stuff.
Right.
And
which, I thankfully that's just not, I mean, we enjoy it. We certainly are not like living in squalor. I mean, I eat out if I want to, but it really, we're not big consumers, I guess.
Are you still updating? I know there was like a Facebook page for the Burundi baby. Is that, Are you going to kind of document that throughout the process?
Yeah. In fact, I'm probably overdue for a video or some kind of
I'll
update.
make sure and throw that in the show notes too. So
there's if people are interested in contributing, it will cost us somewhere around $45,000. So we could use I'll tell you what. We've gotten a lot of generosity so far, though. So it's been, and we.
It's not really like they're contributing to Brian Bandas. You're contributing to bring this child out of
absolutely. It
poverty.
Makes a big difference. And, I feel a lot more comfortable, asking people to contribute to that, because it's not like that's going to pay for our next television, and,
right?
So that's. We were actually just working on that this morning. Like the amount of stuff that you have to do, the amount of documents you have to get notarized and then sealed by the county and then sealed by the state. And
wow.
All I can do is laugh. It's pretty crazy.
Well, cool, man. Well, everybody check him out. The Burundi. I'll put all the notes and everything in the show notes.
Yeah. Do either facebook.com/Burundi baby, which is BURUNDI.
Okay.
Or same thing, purecharity.com/Burundi baby.
Right on.
If y'all want to check that out. But
Brian Bandas.
That's me.
Thanks for talking, man.
Yeah.
And that was my chat with Brian Bandas, formerly of Love and Theft and other musical ventures, now real estate man here in Nashville, Tennessee. What you're hearing in the background here is Brian and I picking out a little blues here in the office. Now, if you get a chance, please check out Brian's wife, Kelly Bandas's blog, Oh Bother, at Oh Bother on social media and ohbother.com. That is O with 2 O's, OOH bother.com. Also, for more info on the baby that Brian and Kelly are adopting from Burundi, Africa, head over to facebook.com/Burundi baby, BURUNDI baby. And all of that will be up at the show notes page from this episode at don'tstifleme.com/004. Thanks again so much for listening, my friends. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, or leave a review, share with your friends. Any or all of that would be fantastic. And if you have any feedback or any questions you'd like to send my way, do that at jacob@don'tstifleme.com is the email address. And the podcast social medias are at DSM Podcast on Instagram and Twitter. Once again, this episode is brought to you by me, Jacob Stifle. I'm a singer-songwriter, and I have music on iTunes and other digital music outlets. There's merchandise and tour dates up at jacobstifle.com. And just like that, episode 4 is done. I will be back for episode 5, and I hope you will be as well. Until then, here's more of Brian and I playing some blues. Have a great rest of your day.
Not bad for a real estate agent anyway.